Hi guys, the media is obsessed with the concept of a honeymoon period for the new government and Prime Minister, and right-wing outlets in particular have already written Kier Starmer's political obituary. Commentators keep harking back to previous Prime Ministers and how well they were doing at this stage after the general election and compare Starmer to them. But is it right to do so? Here political analyst Theo Usherwood explains why support for Starmer is bad, but why there could be a silver lining for the Prime Minister. Have a listen.
If a student of politics was asked to write a dissertation on that, they would probably struggle. If you were attempting to get to the sort of core of the ideology or the direction of travel, it's quite hard. I know that 55% of the public believe Britain is heading in the wrong direction. I know that if you ask a question about any government at any time, a lot of people will say they don't know what they're doing, they're a bit rubbish. It almost goes with the territory of being in power that you get criticised. I get all of that, but it is a reasonable question to wonder where they're going, because at the moment I can't really join anything up.
Yeah, so look, if you compare, and this is worth just bearing in mind, if you compare Kier Starmer to the remaining Conservative leadership candidates, there's only one in terms of these favourability ratings who actually does better, and that's Tom Tugendhat. And that's important because we don't yet have that juxtaposition between the Prime Minister and the leader of the Conservative Party, because the leader of the Conservative Party has yet to be chosen. And it's all very well saying, Kier Starmer's doing really badly, but if the leader of the opposition is faring even worse, then in actual fact, he's doing okay because he's not doing as badly as the other guy. But I think you raise a very fair point that Kier Starmer hasn't yet, and he was trying to do this, I think, with his speech to the TUC, the Trade Unions Congress down in Brighton this week, but actually managed to establish a narrative about what he wants to achieve so that the voting public can at least have a chance of buying into that. He talks about working people, but at the same time, there are many pensioners who are saying, I've worked hard all my life, I'm on a fixed income, I need my winter fuel allowance in order to get through. And because they're pensioners, they don't have the option, they don't have the option just to go out and work that extra shift, do that, few hours of overtime to make up the difference. And I think it does not sit well with the overarching narrative that Kier Starmer was trying to talk about during the general election, that actually he wants to create a much fairer society which looks after the most vulnerable.
Yes, I think that's true. It's about creating a narrative, creating a vision. So there was no vision before the general election. It probably wasn't necessary because people voted the Tories out. They were not voting enthusiastically in support of Labour. But their vision has to be there. And it seems the vision is to focus on working people, not the pensioners, not people on benefits, but working people. Now, whether this will work or not, or whether this is the correct approach, remains to be seen. But Theo is correct. If he focuses on working people, and this is the narrative, and people see an improvement, working people in particular see an improvement over this parliament, then they're going to stick with Labour. But that's the challenge for Kier Starmer and Labour, is to create a situation where people see an improvement in their lives, especially working people. Now, it's difficult to define what working people are, but if the narrative and the vision is to improve things for ordinary people, working people, then he will succeed. Now, I think it's also interesting how Theo brought up about the opposition, the Conservatives. So the Conservatives are actually doing worse than Starmer at the moment, which means that Starmer is doing better than the Tories. The Tories are extremely unpopular at the moment, and rightly so. And I think it's going to be very difficult for them to improve their standing with the public unless they bring in a fresh face or somebody who isn't as toxic as the mainstream who are leading the Conservative front runners at the moment to replace Rishi Sunak. So Tom Tugendhat is a good example, a more moderate Tory. So he would be perhaps someone who would help the Tories win votes, but it's going to be difficult for him to become leader of the Conservatives because the Conservative members are much to the right, further to the right than the average person on the street. But this thing about polling and how popular Kier Starmer is at the moment it's not a great barometer to use, because Starmer did not run on hope and change. He didn't run on a platform where he was promising the sun, moon and stars. It's not like Tony Blair in 1997. It's not like David Cameron in 2010. He came into power saying, look, the situation is terrible. I'm not going to make any drastic changes. I'm going to steady the ship, this sort of approach. And of course, his opinion polls are going to be terrible for the foreseeable future. But I don't think that's all that important, because the election is in 4 or 5 years' time. He may not even be around as Prime Minister when the election eventually takes place. But I think his goal at the moment is not to look at opinion polls, not to look at what the newspapers are saying, but to focus on a vision. And that vision has to be, in his eyes, working people. They're the ones who came out and voted for Labour. They are the ones he will need to hold on to if he wants to stay in power. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.